Hello, good evening, everyone. Am I audible to all of you? You can raise your hand or, you can open your mic. Thank you, Malika, for informing me. I hope all of you are doing well. And today's session is going to be very interesting because we have two scholars. They are the volunteers and they agreed to participate in the presentation where they'll be talking about SWOT analysis of their firm. And I see that they have not joined yet. And I also see that there's still 2 minutes to go. So we're going to wait for some time and then we will start the journey of Dr. FrontierX's fourth session.
Stop the timer at 10 seconds to get one pizza free slice. Nobody can get it.
Hello, everyone. We have more attendees now. Good evening. And I hope everyone is doing well. I was expecting more volunteers to participate in fourth session. I was expecting Malika, Praveen, and Jovita also, to be honest, that I thought that you will give your consent to present. So probably in coming sessions, we would organize some more different topics and where you would be also participating as a presenter. Yeah?
Archie, I just want to intercede here. Thank you for
Yeah.
your high opinion. But I am primarily and basically from the government sector where there being hardly any competition. We
Ah,
never sort of did the SWOT analysis or
no
PESTLE.
worries. Yeah. So
Okay.
it will be good chance to learn actually. And
Yes, yes.
probably in future, I would come up with some corporate social responsibility, Malika, where I would invite you to be one of the presenters. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. Thank you.
So, yeah. So I have my presenter here and yeah. All right, let me start the session formally. This is the session we have focused or centered for talking about SWOT analysis. And why I particularly took this topic to be discussed by the scholars, because they are already into the professional setup. They are the part of industry, and they are actually applying the SWOT analysis in their practices. So it was a like great opportunity for all of us to learn from their experiences and how they are applying in the real scenario. We already know what is a SWOT analysis. It is a practice that we all follow, not only in the professional setup, in the academic setup, and wherever you would like to take any strategic decision making process, we depend on SWOT analysis. So the full form is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when we say strength and weaknesses, these two factors are internal in nature. Opportunities and threats are external in nature. So when we say external, actually we do not have any control over these factors. We have to move with these factors. We have to arrange, we have to decide, we have to prepare strategies either to take the advantages or to meet the challenges. So before I go ahead and take lots of time, my first presenter is, we call her Tumi, but I'm definitely sure that she would like to have a great introduction from her side also. Welcome, Tumi, to the session. And I request you to please share your slide, give a short introduction about yourself and your work, And let's start with SWOT analysis. Tumi, are you ready with me?
I am ready, and thank you very much for the introduction. I've shared the presentation. Is it Dr. Ashi who's talking?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Arshi with you.
Okay. May I ask that to present on my behalf? My laptop has been acting up even today. I've been trying to log in using it. May I ask that to present?
Yeah, I can upload the slides, but definitely you're gonna talk about, right, to me?
Yes, I would do so. While Dr. Ashi is assisting me with loading the slides, let me take the opportunity to greet each and every one of you. Let me put on the camera so that you see who is talking to you. I trust that I am visible from your end.
To me, give a short introduction about your work and your profile also.
I will do so. Thank you very much. My full names are Boitumelo Felicity Ntosa from Botswana. I am the managing director of Destiny Creek. Destiny Creek is a company that is in the manufacturing sector. We are manufacturing consumer goods. We first started in 2023, but in terms of registering the company, I started in 2017 and did a lot of background work in terms of research, benchmarking with those who are already in the industry to learn about how the manufacturing sector in terms of the products that we are in, they operate, those who are doing it best in the industry. So I did a lot of traveling at that time. Yes, it was quite exciting and doing work and fun at the same time. So we package of beverages. We have black tea that we import from Kenya. We are importing rooibos from South Africa. And of late, we have included freeze-dried coffee that we import from Colombia. We will be adding Brazil soon. And we also import a variety of herbs that we blend in-house to create a number of herbal teas. So for me, this is a first, and it's quite an interesting transition. And the SWOT analysis has been quite helpful because I had to do a transition from being an employee and now becoming an employer. So it wasn't just about starting the new business. I also had to look at myself under a different role where I'm no longer an employee and I'm not even expecting a salary from employer. So in short, I'm also a student of DBA with EU Global, and I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashi.
Yes, to me, I'm trying to share your because I'm in India currently, and the network here, unfortunately, is not very good. I'll try my best to,
Okay, thank you.
share your, yes, I'm doing it now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it visible to all of you?
Not yet on my side, but I can see
Yes.
presentation coming up.
Yes. Okay, great. I'm sorry, I cannot put it on the presentation mode because of the poor connectivity. So I would request to please manage this way. To me, go ahead.
It's visible to the other participants on my end. Okay, there it is now. Thank you very much. Could you go to, okay, I've lost it. Is it still showing those who are on the platform?
Yeah. How about now?
Yes, there it is. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Slide 2, please. But Slide 2 is talking to the, we'll be looking at the introduction of the SWOT analysis. Will be, you want to a bit ahead of me, Dr. Ashi. Okay, let me just continue. So for me, I think it was quite an interesting. I'm sorry?
Yeah, would you like to start from here, slide 3?
No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I was saying, for me, it was quite an interesting research and even read, because I had to do a lot of digging in to appreciate the origins of the SWOT analysis, and to also appreciate how it's transitioned from the time that when it was originated to up to the time it became the SWOT, from the soft to the SWOT. And it also sort of took me back to the time when I was still an employee and had to dig from the experience and the bank of knowledge that I had. And as Dr. Ashi has already alluded, we use the SWOT analysis on quite a number of occasions and activities within the business environment, with the strengths and the weaknesses, looking at the internal perspective of the business, and the threats and opportunities being on the outside. So it's very important for a company to always have a look at the SWOT and not take it as a once-off exercise, but to take it as a living and a moving exercise, because it also helps to stay abreast with what is happening outside in the outside in the environment, and to know what opportunities to take and leverage on the strengths that it has, and also to counter the weaknesses that it might encounter within the organization. To know what competition is doing, to always be at par or even go ahead of your fellow competitors. So for me, the SWOT analysis has to be taken as a continuous exercise periodically, to make sure that we strengthen the strengths that we have, take opportunities, and make sure that we address those weaknesses and threats. And I have referenced the article that I was using there. Slide 4, Dr. Ashi. And now, as I was saying, in terms of the research, I got to appreciate that the SWOT analysis has been credited to Robert Franklin Stewart. And at first, that when he started this work, it was referred to as the soft approach, and it transitioned to being SWOT at a later stage. And what's interesting is that the soft, as it was referred to at that time, looked at the satisfactory effects within the organization, the opportunities, the falls, and the threats. So at that time, Stewart was working with his team that was referred to as the theory and practice of planning, TAPP. And they did a role play, one of the aspects that I really appreciate a lot, because it gives the actor an opportunity to experience what the other person does on a day-to-day basis, to give the actor an experience of what it would feel like should they be given that role to participate in. And they modeled these on a real cases, on activities and positions which were real within that organization, the Quanta Corporation. And the outcome, the teams rather, were given guidelines on how they were supposed to carry out that exercise. They were given forms, and they had to study in advance to equip them in advance on what it is that they are going to have to do, how they are going to collect the information and process it, so that it gives out the results that are going to be beneficial and even help the organization to make the decisions going forward. So the outcomes were compiled, they were organized in 4 soft questions, which were what must be done to safeguard the satisfactory in the present operations, and that will be looking at the satisfactory aspect, and what must be done to open the door to opportunities in future operations so that we make sure that we harness them, and what must be done to fix the faults of the present operations so that they don't become a hindrance in terms of the growth and the effectiveness of the organization, and what must be done to prevent the threats that might be challenging the growth and even the effectiveness and the efficiency of the organization. And the article continued to share that in 1974, Humphrey, just like Stewart, then emphasized on the management participation, which is a good thing because it takes into consideration every other person within the organization. It's not only centralized to management. So they looked into that to identify an organization's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, but now not necessarily deviating from what Stewart did, but sort of elevating on the works that Stewart did. And Humphrey then came up and coined the word SWOT analysis. Hence, most of the time when we do a bit of research, it sort of refers to Humphrey as the one who is credited with the SWOT analysis. And the SWOT analysis continues to be one of the tools that are mostly used within organizations worldwide. Next slide, please. And on this slide, I just shared the components of the SWOT analysis and using my company, Destiny Creek, as a case study. When we started, there was quite a lot that was not available on the ground, rather, and there was a lot of work that I had to do because when I started, I had a team of 2. And in terms of experience, in terms of competencies, in terms of qualification, there was a lot that was lacking. And we had to put work in place to make sure that we will be able to be competitive in that market. And for those who might not be aware of or have any information or knowledge about my country, Botswana, is that we have a population that is just, excuse me, over 2.5 million, the whole country. And we totally, sort of 90% of our food, the consumption, we get it from outside the country, mainly from South Africa. So this gives an opportunity for local production. This gives an opportunity for value addition to take place within the country. And having said that, this meant that they are already products which are consumed, which are imports into the country. And those are the products that we, so loyalty in terms of consumers, they know the brands, they know the products. And for us, it was a new product into the market, which we had to do a lot of awareness, a lot of socialization to educate the consumers of the new product that is coming into the market. Not only the product, but even the brand. We are trading under the brand Motswedi, which is the second name translated from the company Destiny Creek. I wanted a name that would resonate with a Motswana, being a person in Botswana. Even my grandmother at home will sort of relate to that name. So we had to do a lot of advertising, we had to do a lot of marketing. And in terms of our strength as a company, I had to look first within what it is that we can do as a company, we have rather as a company, and those things that we can use to leverage and to get into the market. So one of the items is the skills skilled management. I, as the owner of the company came with a vast knowledge and experience, being an accountant at first and having worked at different leadership positions, from an accountant to being in projects in change management, and having done a compliance to make sure that I know the requirements of what it is needed to get into the market. More so that our product is food related. There are quite a number of oversight authorities which have an interest in what we the product that we are that we are selling. So we had to look at things like environmentally compliant packaging, which we already had, opportunities to partner with government trade agencies, which are already having initiatives and programs to help SMMEs in terms of getting into the market and getting their products out there so that they are known. And we had an opportunity while interacting with customers to make sure that we accommodate them in the responses and the recommendations that they were giving to us, more especially on the herbal teas, to make sure that we can cater for their taste. And in terms of the weakness, as much as capital constraint was a weakness in terms of we were starting and the machinery that was required to do the work was quite expensive. So we had to do contract packing. It came as a cost. And we needed to do that so that we get our presence felt in the market. There was a low brand recognition. Our name was not even known. High overhead cost in terms of the rental space that we had to get. Slow market access because we needed to get our foot into the market so that we get recognized and known before we could be embraced. And even the team that I had, they had no experience in terms of what is happening within the manufacturing sector. So we needed to do a paced training and education in terms of what it is needed. And there was a danger of disruptions in terms of how we do our work. And opportunities were to partner with those agencies to get our products into the market, into the retail shops and the warehouses, to be able to sell to the soldiers and the police camps in large quantities. And in terms of the threats, competition for imports, from imports rather, which we had to sort of cut down on our prices to at least break even to get our product into the market. And unfavorable foreign exchange. It happens that our imports are mainly charged, more especially from Kenya, in US dollar and even in Colombia. So the US dollar compared to our currency in Botswana is quite steep. And high rental cost, brand loyalty, those are some of the threats that we had to make sure that we counter to be able to operate. Next slide, Dr. Ashi. And in terms of how to conduct the SWOT analysis, I just followed the guide that, interestingly, that is something similar to what we did when we started. We gathered at the team, the little team that we had, and we all of them did an induction and training of what it is that we are supposed to do to identify and brainstorm, identify the strengths, the weaknesses within the organization, and prioritization of the key factors, focusing on those things that have a high impact on the organization, and did an analysis of the internal factors together with the external factors. Developed the strategies to leverage our strengths and implemented those strategies. So initially, before we listed with retailers and wholesalers, we physically went to these people to introduce ourselves, to avoid having to go through distributors and agents who were already putting a markup on our products. And by the time they get to the retailers and wholesalers, it meant that our prices were not going to be competitive. So those are some of the things that we needed to incorporate into how we are going to access the market. Next slide, Dr. Ashi. And then the tools and techniques for effective SWOT analysis. And for me, this was quite interesting because it also had to remind me of some of the tools that I used in the workplace back while I was in the corporate world. The gap analysis, which was one of the tools that we use almost day to day in our project assignments to identify the SEs, the current situation of the company, the current status of the company to the desired status of the company, and to see the gap in between and to put in strategies in place on how we are going to close the gap, what it is that is needed to reach the desired end. The pastel, which looked at a broader external environment, panning from the political, the economic, social, technological environment, and the legal aspects. And the control assessments, this one was quite interesting for me because I happened to have been a champion for the initiative. It looked at the processes within each and every department and looked at the effectiveness of the processes, looked at key processes which were instrumental in terms of the day-to-day activities of a department or a section. And within those activities, looked at the inputs, it looked at the outputs, it looks at the risks, the inherent risks that are associated with a particular activity or a particular process, the mitigations that have been put in place to counter those risks, because some of the risks, they cannot always be they cannot always be sent to a third party. You will have to find a way on how we're going to put mitigations in place to address them and put in monitoring tools in place to monitor the progress of such risks. And at the end, it will be just doing the monitoring and the review and the sustainability to ensure that whatever it is that implemented is going to be work according to the plan, and any deviation had to be recorded and to be used to make any corrective action should there be a need for that. And the balance scorecard, which is one of the tools that is quite used extensively in the business environment, which looks at a number of perspectives from the financial perspective, the customer perspective, the internal perspective, and the learning and growth, which looks into the inside of the organization. Next slide, Dr. Ashi. Is it the last slide? No, it's not. And then in terms of how to convert the weaknesses into the strengths. So, taking off my glasses. So to transform the weakness into the strength is quite critical. A critical strategic move for organizations for growth and resilience. So what it needs, it requires implementation of a continuous improvement practices such as the total quality management, the Kaizen, which translates to change for the better, incorporating quality into everyday work processes, products and services. And I can liken this into the control self-assessment, because looking at processes, that is what one area which will eliminate any overlaps, eliminate any gaps, eliminate any weaknesses, and will render the process effective from there. Excuse me. Incorporation of the PDCA, which is a methodology in processes and products. And in terms of the case studies of successful businesses using SWOT, I came across and have heard even before of the Netflix story, a company that was initially in the DVD rental space, and they faced the challenges with a high logistical cost. They transformed from the DVD rental and into streaming that has the potential, and even at the current time reach out to places which are not even restrictive in terms of boundaries. So even here in Botswana, we have access to Netflix, and by having to use technology, leveraging on the data analytics and innovation, we had an opportunity, they had an opportunity for online streaming. And I also came across a company called PT Hayton Wine Valley, a wine producer in Indonesia, who used their competitive edge in the wine industry, leveraging on the quality of the wines that they were producing. And Starbucks, even here in we don't have Starbucks. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've heard a lot of stuff about Starbucks. And they leveraged an opportunity for them to be competitive in the coffee industry, and even, you know, their strong brand, opening a number of Starbucks across the world and offering quite a number of products under their brand and catering to a changing consumer preferences, including even healthier options, just like that. And I think this is the last slide that I have, Dr. Ashi. I pray I wasn't running through the slides, and I will be looking forward to interactions, to discussions. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Ashi and the EU Global Institute. I tell you the truth, I'm seeing lines in there, but I didn't have those initially. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tumi. It was really an interesting topic to be discussed. And it was nice to learn about your company and how did you manage SWOT analysis. Probably our participants have some questions from you. But I believe that how about if we finish both presentations and Tumi and Busi, the two presenters, can take over the discussion. Would you agree with me, Tumi, for that?
I'm okay with that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because, you know, we'll be having more comprehensive discussion after listening to Busi.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And all
So
the
thank
best,
you.
Lucy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tumi. And our next presenter is from, it's about SWOT analysis. And we have Busi here. She will be presenting and she will be discussing her company and how did she manage and how did she conduct a SWOT analysis. So, Busi, over to you. And we would like to have a short introduction about you as well as your company. Yeah?
All right, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashi, and good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Busi Sukhanetso. By profession, I'm an industrial psychologist. Interestingly, I work in a bank at the moment, and therefore I get to see the strategic element of the business, but also then just making sure that we have the right people that are able to achieve the strategy. I work for an organization called Absa Bank. It is a Pan-African bank that operates across 12 countries in Africa. You would have seen it in the news a couple of years ago. We were previously owned by Barclays in the United Kingdom. And our separation from Barclays was one of the biggest in the globe worldwide, where Barclays then took back its stake to the United Kingdom, and we became a standalone entity that is focused on the African footprint. So that is just a brief overview of me and the organization that I work for. If I just reflect on the objectives of what I want us to have a look at together today, is honestly just defining the concept of what a SWOT analysis is. Yes, we study it from a theoretical perspective as we all go through our studies, but, you know, just operating from a similar foundation of what the SWOT analysis is. And then what I'd like us to do is to look at a problem statement specifically within banking, and then develop a SWOT analysis for that particular scenario. So when we speak about SWOT analysis, and Tumi did a great job of positioning this earlier, for me, more than being a tool that can be used for strategic analysis, I think it's a thinking lens that helps us to assess where we are as a company, spot the opportunities that are in the market, as well as to prepare for the uncertainty that we see in today's global economic environment. So it's more than just a theoretical tool or a framework. I think it really does add a lot of value in the business if we use it as an opportunity to assess our environment and then to act upon that assessment. I think it's also important not to end at the analysis, but use the insights that the analysis is giving you in order for you to act accordingly in your business. So if I then just reflect on the value of SWOT analysis for businesses, I've said here that the businesses that will thrive or that currently do thrive are those that make the time to pause and reflect and think about the following questions. What are we doing well as a business? What could put us at risk going forward? So what could threaten the fact that we are doing well? And also, where's the next wave of value coming from? You could also position this question as where's the next wave of change coming from? We live in a VUCA environment that we all speak about, and we know that with change comes opportunity and comes value, but also comes threats. So it's very important that leaders and organizations take the time to reflect on these questions. So moving ahead, this is just a summary of the SWOT analysis framework itself. So if we then look at what it stands for, we've obviously just seen from Tumi, it is the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and strengths that businesses are presented with in the business of doing business. And how this applies then within organizations is that the things that are within our control are within our internal environment, and those would be the strengths and the weaknesses. If we break down strengths, the things that we would look at there is what do we do better than our competitors? And that would set us apart and give us a competitive advantage. And then what are the resources and capabilities that we have that give us an edge? If we reflect on the Apple case study as an example, we know that the one resource or capability that set Apple apart was the iOS, which is the one resource or capability that other organizations didn't have. And that's where Apple captured its market. So it's around understanding what is your unique value proposition and what sets you apart from the market. Again, sticking with the internal lens, we need to then reflect on our weaknesses. Where do we need to improve, right? It could be in our people, processes, data, technology, in our strategy as well. So there's a whole host of areas of improvement that we need to reflect upon. Also important in terms of assessing weaknesses is understanding what holds us back internally as an organization. So we've got a strategic goal and a strategic ambition. What are the things that are hindering us from achieving those goals? It could be that you don't have the right skills of people to deliver on your ambition as an organization. It could be that your technology is not up to par, that your data is not mature. So it's reflecting on all of those things that are keeping you from succeeding. So once we scan the internal environment, we then move on to scanning the external environment, because we can all acknowledge that our businesses don't operate within a vacuum. Yes, there may be internal dynamics, but there's also external dynamics that have impact on the business itself. So the first thing we then look at on the external end is opportunities. What trends are coming up in the market that we can take advantage of? We know that AI is a big trend across the globe at the moment. So how can organizations and your companies, the banking industry, which I am in, how do we then utilize AI as an example, which is a current trend, and how do we take advantage of that? In our banking industry, we see that chatbots are now being developed and put out in the market. And instead of going to a branch to speak to a consultant or picking up a phone and calling someone, you can actually ask a chatbot and go through a frequently asked questions to get your query resolved. There's much more use cases and applications of AI within the banking industry and in other industries across the globe. But that's just an example of a trend that's taking over the world. And it's for us as leaders and companies to then reflect where and how do we take advantage of that. Also, another question that we can ask from an opportunity perspective is, are there new markets that we can enter into? Are there unmet customer needs that we can optimize? So if I just look at the traditional banking sector, we all know that the card, well, from cash was king in the 90s and into the early 2000s. We then move across to the cards for the payment system. However, in a geography such as Africa, where people preferred mobile wallets and therefore were unbanked, we had mass populations of unbanked people. The opportunity to then introduce mobile wallets was meeting an unmet customer need, which was an opportunity for banks to then gain market share in that payments and transacting business. Lastly, also coming from an external environment are threats. So what are the external factors that could negatively affect us as an organization? It could be COVID. All of us went through COVID, and I'm sure your business was impacted one way or another. It could be economic downturns. I mean, we've all heard talks about recessions in the world. That does have an external threat element that is introduced to an organization. But also other threats could be simply what are our competitors doing better than us? Because if they are doing better, they then gain the bulk of the market share. So it's not just looking within, it's important to keep an eye on the external environment as well. So then this just sums up the concept of the SWOT analysis framework. The problem statement that I want us to work with as a foundation for our SWOT analysis today is how can traditional banks remain competitive and sustainable amid rising competition from fintechs, amid rising or shifting customer expectations, as well as the increasing pressure to deliver more digital first products, as well as the ESG agenda in terms of socially responsible banking. So you can see that the face of banking is changing, and the bank is literally experiencing pressure from firstly within itself in order to to catch up with competitors, but also in terms of regulation that is coming to the fore that is forcing banks to rethink how they do business. So against the backdrop of this problem statement, I want us to have a look at a SWOT analysis that is specific for the banking industry in 2025. So what would be then the strengths of a traditional bank in the current day and age? It's the fact that banks have established customer trust. They have been in operation for as long as money has been in circulation. So they have that long-standing relationship and trust with customers. Depending on the maturity of the financial system or the environment that you're in, you still find people that place a lot of trust in traditional banking institutions because of the strong regulation that is imminent within banks. The fact that banks have a strong capital and regulatory compliance, so you almost can sleep at night knowing that your money is in a bank and that you won't wake up tomorrow and there's a story around why you cannot receive access to your money. So the banks have built their strong capital, but also the regulatory compliance that is in place for banks across the globe establishes that trust with consumers. Banks have also invested quite significantly in digital infrastructure over the last couple of years. So the fact that we all have a mobile banking app, the fact that we can all do online banking, some of us can pay with our Apple Pay using our iWatches. So there's been so much investment that has gone into digital infrastructure within banking, which is a strength. And then the fact that banks have a product suite of offerings, right? You know that you can get a product that is just banking specific, one that is investment specific. There's one in terms of, just different needs that you may have from the financial system. A bank is able to meet that closely. If we then move across to weaknesses, we know that compared to fintechs and in the world of AI and blockchain and big data, banks are actually quite lagging behind when it comes to their IT systems. And this is both applications and infrastructure. So that is presenting a weakness for the industry as a whole. If we then just look at the innovation, banks are not very slow, maybe let me be kind to them. They are a bit slower in terms of responding to innovation compared to fintechs. And this can be linked to the first point around legacy IT systems, because if your systems are old and outdated, it's very difficult for you to be able to keep up with the rapid pace of change in the market. So compared to fintechs that have cutting edge systems, blockchain facilities, you name it, they are able to live up to innovation quicker and to bear the rewards of innovation. With the move to digital banking, we have all seen that there has been a rise in cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and that is a weakness that is prevalent within the banking industry. And then lastly, in terms of the lack of the systems and the data to be able to do so, banks could offer a much more personalized customer experience. So scanning where you're spending on your card and being able to offer you products and benefits that are personalized to your unique customer journey and experience, as opposed to just a generic customer experience landscape. There is still a bit of lack of maturity in that space, but there is work being undertaken across the globe to make sure that, you know, banking is a personalized experience as opposed to a non-value adding transaction. If we look at threats, I've mentioned that fintechs are coming in for the bank's lunch. They are really challenging banks in terms of the value that they add. We see things like M-Pesa in Africa, where you don't even need a bank account to do cross-border payments. We see mobile wallets coming up. There's PayPal across, you know, just the global landscape. I've mentioned Apple Pay earlier. There's Samsung Pay. So there's so many other, Google Pay is another one. There's so many other micro financing or micro payment platforms that are coming up that are then taking up the market from the banks. So fintech competition is quite rife. The changing regulatory landscape is another one. If I look at big banks, commercial banks, they would fund big coal mines in Africa in order to make, you know, the large sums of money that they did. However, with the ESG agenda coming in and the Net Zero Banking Alliance, there's increasing pressure for banks to stop funding, you know, platforms and opportunities that are not healthy for the environment, which then means that the banks are losing out on certain business because of regulation that is determining where they should be investing and where they should be lending their money. Economic volatility and loan risks, I spoke about this. If there is a economic downturn across the global economy. We saw this in the war with Russia and Ukraine, that it impacted the economy of the world. You know, there's been talks of a recession in terms of the money that is available in the consumer pocket. So any level of economic volatility then impacts customers' ability to honor their loans to the banks. And if customers don't pay back the money to the banks then are a threat in terms of not making back their money reserves. Another one, which is actually quite pertinent to the world of work in which I am in, is the war for talent. If banks are going to become increasingly digital going forward, then we need the talent to be able to drive the technology and the innovation agenda in the industry and in these organizations. And the war for talent is quite rife, and we're not just competing at a local geographic space, but we are competing for talent across the globe. So if you don't have the right people in your organization to build these digital platforms and to advance your digital agenda, then that does pose a significant threat in terms of just keeping up with where the world is going. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There are opportunities for banks for them to increase their value and to play in a different and more value-adding space going forward. And the first one is around an ecosystem. You know, a bank has been a bank for hundreds of years. But banks now need to start thinking differently around, instead of being threatened by fintechs, how do they partner with fintechs in order to drive digital transformation? So if a bank doesn't have a blockchain platform or capability, how does it partner with a fintech that has that blockchain capability so that you don't need to sign a contract every time you open a bank account, but that contract can be built into the blockchain environment, as an example. So there's exciting innovations that are coming up in that world of work. Financial inclusion is another one. Like I said, with the traditional banking approach, we found that there were a lot of people that were left out of the banking system. But as it becomes more digital, the cost of banking is becoming less, firstly, but also the excess of banking is becoming more widespread. And therefore, the digital channels are driving the financial inclusion element and banking the previously unbanked market. The opportunity, again, from a sustainability perspective, is making sure that we provide ESG aligned and financing in green products. You would have heard of green bonds, right, as an example, which is incentives for banks to invest in opportunities that are helpful to our environment and that benefits all of us as a society. And then also just speaking about AI, I mentioned it earlier, how AI is now taking over the job of just generic questioning, frequently asked questions, instead of you having to go into a bank or having to call a consultant. So leveraging AI and data analytics to mine customer insights in order to give them that personalized banking experience is a great opportunity that all banks are looking to exploit at the moment. So I thought then, colleagues, it would be important to create a problem statement that is real time, that banks are grappling with across the world, and then just for us to apply the SWOT analysis so that we can, one, practically see its application, but also then just evaluate where the opportunities are for where the world of banking is going. What I would like to leave you with, as we've just done this practical exercise, is that the true value of the SWOT analysis is not in just doing the analysis. It lies in the practical application. So how do you use the insights that you gain in order to make smarter decisions, to mitigate against risk, and to capitalize on the opportunities and the trends? And then what I'm going to ask you to implement in your own organizations as you go forward is regularly asking these 4 questions, which can shape better business outcomes. What's working? What's not working? What could be done differently? What else could we be doing? And what might threaten us? I mean, these look like simple questions on pen and paper. However, if you just sit and go through the exercise, it gives you deep insights that will allow you to pivot as an organization in order to gain and sustain competitive advantage. And then the last one is around the ongoing nature of strategic analysis. You don't just analyze your business once off. It's a frequent assessment because things change frequently in the environment in which we operate. So continuous horizon scanning is crucial in order to enable your strategic decision making and ensuring your business sustainability in the different companies, industries, and sectors that we all operate in. These are principles that can be applied across the board and can add value in terms of making the SWOT analysis come to life for you and your organization. That is it from me, Dr. Ashi. Thank you to you and the colleagues for giving me this time. I look forward to the interaction and questions.
Hi, Busi. It was like a fantabulous session today. Thank you so much. And you were so spontaneous and like you presented very well. And the same thing for Tumi today. So we had incredible presentation today by 2 of the presenters from our scholars at EU Global. And I'm so proud of both of you. Thank you so much. So this is the session now. Like I just request the other attendees and the participants, if you have questions to learn more about how they are doing their businesses, how they are managing challenges, and how they are exploiting the opportunities, the session is all yours. So the floor is open for the discussion. Probably I too have a few things to learn from Ms. Tomi and Ms. Busi about their farms and how actually they are doing the business in Africa. So, but first I will give opportunities to other participants. We have a short exercise also. So let's have a quick discussion and then I'll give a short exercise. Yes, participants, you can open your mics and you can discuss. You can have some questions.
Uh, Hello, I am deeply grateful to both the participants for a very good presentation. I have a question for Busi. It's not a question, it is, I'm just seeking more information. You mentioned in the early part of your presentation about SWOT working for Apple in the iOS. Can you give me some more details on this for Apple company?
Okay, thank you, Malika. Let me just go back to that slide. So this is where I was talking about assessing your own strengths as an organization. And the question that Apple had to ask itself, like do many other organizations, is what do we do better than our competitors? And Apple was very clear that it didn't want to be the next Android. It didn't want to be the next Microsoft. It wanted to be Apple, right? So it looked at the RIO framework is actually can also be applied here. So the resources, the valuable resources that you have in your organization. And for Apple, that was the Apple operating system itself. So it's not just specific to Apple, but that was an example to say you assess your strengths that set you apart from competitors and give you a competitive edge or advantage over your competitors. Does that help?
Oh, okay, thank you. So I would really, I'm very interested in, these private multinationals. I haven't worked in any, but they make me very curious. So I would give an example of, the Apple AirPods. They were, a lot of competition has come into the market on the AirPods. I don't know what they're called generically, but Apple calls them the AirPods. So how did they do the SWOT analysis? Is the internal business, but what they came up with, in recent times, probably last year, is they added hearing aids to the AirPods. So they sort of, differentiated and let me say bettered their product. So I think that would be an example of SWOT analysis and making your product differentiated and better.
Absolutely, Malika. So I've got a Apple Watch, right? And you know that Samsung has their own watch, Huawei has their own watch. But again, where Apple differentiated themselves is they built recently, and I think it's coming out into the market, an ECG monitor into the Apple Watch. And for people that
Yes.
have heart conditions, that is unmatched. So
Yes.
you'll find that other people will try and copy your business model, but Apple is very adamant around differentiating itself from competitors.
Yes, yes, I agree. Yeah, that's another example. And the falling, the watch also monitors, if there's a fall, unattended elderly people. So it monitors the fall. So all these are examples of, the implementation of SWOT. Yeah, thanks again,
Absolutely.
Busi. Thank you.
Thank you, Malika.
Yeah, it's a great discussion from Miss Malika and Miss Lucy. Thank you so much for adding much value to the SWOT analysis. And if we have more questions
Well,
here, yeah,
I think I can add some comments in the
sure.
sense. One of the threats which perhaps is very looming not only on banking industry but all industries is the political changes. So of course I know the list was not comprehensive. There are several types of threats, but I think this is one of the risk. How do the banks, in your experience, Buzi, is such kind of risks are being taken care of?
Oh, that's an interesting one, Pao, and I'm going to use my organization that I work for. Like I said, we operate in 12 different countries in Africa, which means each and every country has its own regulatory environment and its own government policy and framework. And it is becoming a challenge, to be quite honest, because to meet 12 different governmental and political, environments is a challenge. I'll use bribery as an example. In some countries, in order to get a license for banking, you need to be able to bribe someone in the political climate. But I think the saving grace is that banking has become a global community now. So it's not just looking at the country level regulation, there is global regulation that almost forces us all to abide by the same thing. So the World Bank is one of those things. I mentioned the Net Zero Banking Alliance earlier, which is through the United Nations. So having that global link to, yes, Malika says better. Things like anti-money laundering, we all know that, right? FICA and FEDCA and all of those things. So there's global mechanisms that are in place that forced governments to be responsible as it relates to their political involvement and influence in banking.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's a great discussion. Yes, Pawan, please go ahead.
One more to add is that in SWOT analysis, I mean, we have to really do it in a way that it's very balanced, because sometimes the industries are also going on overdrive. I know I had a very good master thesis on which I read is about using CPI index as one of the factors to assess the loans in different countries, or loan going from one country to another. And we need to really be very balanced when we are doing this kind of analysis, because overdrive is also a problem. It's just a comment here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very important actually. While we are doing a SWOT analysis, just having said that, a high quality product or low cost investment, that wouldn't justify the strength unless you actually specifically define, like one of the examples given by Malika today, I definitely liked a lot. It was about the earphones or AirPods, where they were having features to facilitate disabled or the people who have some kind of special needs. So Apple has introduced this feature as one of the strengths, because the other products are the part of you can say contributing in some kind of communication, rather facilitating some people, or that's actually a special feature. So whenever we do a SWOT analysis, be it for the firm, even for the personal aspects or for the professional aspect, even for your research thesis, you can do a SWOT analysis. So being specific about the factors is very important. This is the addition I would like to say. And I have one more comment here in the chat, probably from Pavan only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just say that I mean, we are only looking at threats, but of course, all three other factors are important. But the recent threat which is coming to the banking industry is the digital currency, and it's.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the whole banking system and model is going to change, and I think it's time that all banks. I mean, they must have already done it, so I'm not saying it's something new, but this is going to make a big difference. And of course, this Lucy already mentioned it about the blockchain, and that is exactly what's going to happen. I'm not talking of only cryptocurrency. It's about the changing in banking industry through digital currency.
So can we say that cryptocurrency or blockchain, do you think it's an opportunity or a threat to the banking center or the world economy?
It's both. Actually, I see threats are also a flip side of the threat is opportunity. And that is what has to be looked into.
True. Every threat is an opportunity to grow, right? That's wonderful. I can have a question from Miss Tumi also. Tumi, are you here? Yeah.
I'm here, thank you.
Yes, Tumi. I just have one question, like seeing your presentation, how do you manage scarce resources? Like resources are scarce in terms of, you can say accessibility, in terms of, having a higher rate of foreign exchange, or even, for example, not available. So this thread, how do you manage in your business? For example, you need some inputs to continue, and you wouldn't find it as per the rate you're looking for. So in your experience, how did you manage this scarce resource?
Yeah, that's one of the areas that we started with. Also, importantly for the black tea that we import from Kenya, and the the coffee that we import from Colombia, where we both pay in US dollar and have to rely on shipping companies with the challenges of delay, sometimes goods not being declared in time, depending on whatever country that they are passing through. That one, you have very little control over. However, within Botswana, there is a company that's called a Sea Rail that is operating from the Namibian port. Namibia was quite lenient to give us some space as Botswana to have access to sea either imports or exports. So at least we have access to those areas. And since it's a Botswana company, they then developed networks and collaborations with other shipping companies throughout most of the African countries to ease the movement of goods from one country to the other, and to ensure that they are the ones who are going to be keeping an eye and oversight on the movement of the goods. And then on the foreign exchange, yes, it's a risk. And what I did was I had to open both the local currency business account together with a foreign currency business account, so that money can move in and be able to sort of assist with the dip and the highs of the foreign currency fluctuations. So the moment we have something on the surplus, we make sure
Right.
that we move it to the foreign currency account to help us on a rainy day. And I think the other
Yeah.
thing that I wanted to touch on, which Pawan said in terms of political changes, is that even in here in my
Actually,
country,
yes, political factors are very important to be considered
definitely,
to focus on this situation.
yeah, we had a change of government after 58 years in power. So a lot of
Mhm.
regulations and policies are changing. So even as the local private sector, we sort of have to work hand in hand with government to make sure that what is coming in and we are compliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tumi. I see we have one question coming in from Malika. We'll take this question quickly and then I'll give the exercise to wind up the session. Yes, Malika, please go ahead.
Um, um, it's the question is addressed to me, and uh, my question is, first of all, how do you deal with the uncertainties in dealing with customs at the border, since you're importing from Kenya? I really don't know, but Colombia is a long distance. So how do you deal with customs uncertainties? And secondly, does logistic get affected through, with this Red Sea turmoil and the Panama Canal turmoil? I mean, you can answer this as quickly or may not want to answer it also. I'm just okay with it.
But this is a very interesting question, Malika, because these are all external factors and we do not have control over these factors. So, how actually, to me, if she has experienced this and how did she manage? We would like to learn from Tumi in a couple of minutes, probably.
Yeah, thank you very much. Interestingly, I haven't experienced any delays on the Colombia side, but I have experienced delayed with an order from Kenya coming through South Africa. And at that time, South Africa was going through power challenges. So clearance was sort of delaying because there were truckloads of orders which were still stuck at the port, and clearance was quite slow, which meant that we had to do a lot of queuing, a process that could have taken maybe a day or two in the previous either months or years, was taking close to even sometimes a month, depending on the load shedding schedules. So those are some of the things which we don't have control over, but what we can do would be to, where we have an opportunity, to put in at least excess orders so that we have a good supply of stock while we are waiting for the next consignment to come through. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a great session. And I must thank Ms. Toomey and Ms. Busi for a wonderful presentation. I look forward for my other scholars to participate in the next Doctor Frontiers, and definitely we will be having some more interesting topic coming in because we are doing it fortnightly. So depending on the topics, probably this next time I will be presenting, and then we will invite more scholars. We will plan out, and you will be having your schedule on your calendar soon. The exercise for today is that you can have a table where you can have, for example, strength as SWOT, and try to implement in the real scenario. For example, if you are working, you can apply in your job. If you are an academician, you can apply it in your teaching practices. If you are doing some research work apart from your normal DBA, you can apply in, or if you are in retail or in manufacturing. So actually it is a multidiscipline. It is like very broad. Even you can apply SWOT analysis in your personal life. So it only actually opens the doors for you to learn that how you can really convert your threats into opportunities, how you can overcome weaknesses and identify your strengths to improve, to progress, and to build personal and professional strategies. So with this, I would like to wind up the session. And I also would like to inform all my scholars that many modules are open for you, especially professional review, where you will be learning more about SWOT analysis, pestle analysis, balanced scorecard, and many other management practices. And as you know, this DBA program is more asynchronized. You have an opportunity to learn at your self pace. Just try to go into the course, learn, read the case studies, read the research articles, complete all the discussions. If you find any difficulty and would like to discuss anything, you are very, very welcome to send me emails through your LMS. And by now you must be, knowing that very prompt response you receive from me. So this is the whole guidance from my side today. All the best to you. And thank you very much. Take care. And it's good night from my side.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.